Hi everybody, Kid Lit Book Love. I want to talk to you about my specific review of Pippi Longstocking, and I talked about Pippi in my November book read video I just did. But Pippi Longstocking by Astrid Lindgren was written in 1945, which is the year before my dad was born. And I had never read it, and it was just a blast. It was a blast to read. And I want to talk a little bit about the story, the age range for reading it. And I think any age of child that can read well can read this book. This particular edition, the Puffin Modern Classic, does have quite a lot of text, but you do see some good and fun and whimsical drawings in it. And Pippi Longstocking, as you probably know, is an orphan. And orphans are very common in children's literature, particularly in older children's literature in the 1800 realm, but even getting a little bit into the Golden Age still, or toward the end of the Golden Age, because I think, we see a lot of orphans. We see in the children's literature, Pippi Longstocking, Peter Pan, Anne of Green Gables, Tom from the Water Babies, Little Miss Goody Two-Shoes, and just Harry Potter. They're just, when you really look at children's stories, there are just orphans everywhere. And the question, for analysis is really, why are there so many orphans in children's literature? And if you look at it from the mind of a child, as a child reader, children are often thinking about where they want to go when they grow up, what it must be like to be an adult. They're thinking about how exciting it would be to be free, to be independent, so I think reading about orphans, and most of the orphan tales in children's literature, the children that are the orphans are overcoming their struggles, they're finding homes, they're succeeding, they're flourishing, there's almost always a happy ending. The Family Under the Bridge was a partial orphan story. And Pippi Longstocking, she's a little bit different, though, than Anne. In Anne of Green Gables, we see Anne coming from a state of destitute and longing and wistfulness and a complete lack of everything she could have wanted as she daydreams about it. Pippi, however, is an orphan whose father's lost at sea, and the mother I don't recall, but the difference being Pippi has all of her father's gold, so she's rich, and she has a big house, she has a pony, she has a pet monkey, she has toys and all these fabulous things, and she's alone, but she isn't longing, she isn't really missing anything, and there isn't a lot of emphasis on how she longs for or wishes for a family at all in this book, like you see in Anne of Green Gables. Pippi Longstocking, she is almost like, the story here, you can tell that the author, Astrid Lindgren, she wanted the readers to think about girls or even children on their own as being able to be independent. And there's a lot of focus on Pippi. She's independent. She is a strong girl. The theme of strength in here, especially of girls having strength and overcoming strife, is rampant in this book. So, each chapter is about Pippi overcoming something. We have Pippi being a thing finder. She goes on these adventure quests to discover items like treasure hunting. Pippi stands up to the policeman and defies him. Pippi goes to school for the first time, even though she's terrified. Pippi climbs a tree and goes into the tree trunk, and she's the only one of both of her friends who will go in there. Pippi has her first party. Pippi goes to the circus and jumps into the ring and wrestles with the ringmaster. And Pippi entertains two burglars and befriends them, people who are trying to rob her house. So we see in every page, Pippi Longstocking is this tremendously strong, courageous girl who is portrayed as happy and carefree and loving her life. And there is an underlying theme of education in here. That's another theme you see in a lot of children's literature, is the theme of education, how important it is. We see that in Norton Juster's The Phantom Tollbooth. We see that in most books. If you read it, there's some talk of, with the child characters, about them learning, or how important it is to learn, or what they should learn. But Pippi is uneducated, it's clear. She doesn't read well, she doesn't spell well, but she can't do math, really. And she doesn't go to school, and one time she does go to school, she doesn't like it. But she clearly has street smarts and wits and intelligence, which is what I really like about this book. And she just has this blast of a time, and the reader has a blast of a time reading it. I have to say that I loved this book from the very first page, and I read it pretty much straight through with 1 or 2 breaks, and laughed out loud several times and thought how charming it was. And I even went right after I'd finished to see if I can find any of the versions of the movie that I could watch, which I didn't find for free. So I haven't seen any movie, but I'm sure there is a movie. There's 1 or 2 Pippi movies out there. So I would have to say that the theme of, from a child reader's perspective, teaching them independence, teaching them how to make the best of what they have, teaching them how to use their imaginations. Just like Anne of Green Gables, there's a big imagination theme here. She uses her imagination to create all kinds of things to entertain herself. So it's really genius, I think, and I really recommend it. I think any adult should love this book. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I didn't think I would love it, and it was just the writing is just clever and witty and funny, and it's not dull in any way. I didn't want to miss a word of this book, so definitely check out Pippi. And if you've read Anne of Green Gables, or if you're going to, which I recommend, think about the parallels and the themes and the comparisons between Anne and Pippi. Very similar. Red hair, red freckles, orphans. So there's a lot to analyze there and a lot interesting. So thanks for watching, and I'd love to hear what you think about Pippi Longstocking.